I'm Dan with Consequence of Sound. We're sitting here with Circa Survive. Speaking of things like mental health, I feel like the music industry is kind of elevating this topic and talks about it a little more than we used to. How do you guys feel like the music industry addresses that kind of thing? Do you feel like we talk about it enough? Do we frame it in the right way?
You want it?
It's a big question.
All right. I mean, my perspective on this is that it's always a good thing when people are just being honest about what it is to be a human being, right? So in that way, it's really good. The thing that worries me a little bit is that we're starting to get we're looking at mental illness as the cause of suicide, and I think that's wrong. I think what we need to be doing is looking at what's really underneath that, what's underneath maybe the quote unquote mental illness, and what, in my opinion, the real disease essentially is capitalism, and especially American capitalism. I think the way the kind of pressures we put on people in general, not just famous people, but everyday people, is what causes the majority of suicide, and not directly necessarily, but it's all, you can just trace it all the way back, and it's a mindset of scarcity. You know, it's a thing where we never have enough, we never are enough, and we're just constantly on this like hedonic treadmill trying to get more and be more than what we are in the current moment, and that creates this constant flow of dissatisfaction, you know.
The
Wow.
music industry doesn't do anything to address that. It doesn't. It just, the music industry is there to sell records. Even like there's like little organizations that try to set up that like try to help people, and they're like separate from that. I see that. Like Music Care is a great organization, but that's not separate. That's separate from the industry. Is heartless and doesn't give a fuck about you, and just wants to make money. The music industry doesn't give a fuck about mental health. They will use you and spit you out and make you cannibalize yourself.
Yeah. Do you guys see yourselves having a place in that, like addressing those issues through art or music or anything like that? Or is that too big of a problem for
No,
people
no,
to tackle?
I think no problem is too big for us as human beings, and I think that's the real key to looking at it. It's like, don't, like, we shouldn't be like answering things as artists or as or whatever people in the industry. And I think that's the whole issue, is like this thing of separation, and probably why like we've clung to our roots as like, punk kids and people who grew up going to like shows put on by our friends and like not being on stages and all that stuff. The 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 weird thing that happens once you become a somewhat, quote unquote successful band, is that you instantly have this separation happen. We're backstage, oh, only if you're VIP you can get this close, et cetera, et cetera. So what we try to do is that, yeah, we play all those games, we play all the industry stuff, but at the same time we're always accessible as human beings, and we try to answer questions like this from a perspective of human beings, not as artists or musicians, but just as human beings. Like,
Sometimes the best way you can affect the situation is literally just by speaking about it, by being honest about it. Like, there's nothing you can do greater than just being like, hey, you connecting with somebody, letting them know how you feel like that. If you're expressing yourself through art and music, that's basically what you're doing. People, when they resonate with that, that's what they're saying. They're saying to you like, I feel that too, and like that goes beyond like a commerce thing or a download or a fucking stream or any of that stuff. That's what I feel like we have built our band on. You know what I mean? So, and in some way, like people feel like they need to throw a like a dime in the bucket once in a while somehow. Like we have that there too because we means so much to us. But I think that's all we do. That's all we do as a band, really, is try to reach out in that way through every little stream and creek we have.
I loved what you said about putting on shows with your friends and playing, shows that don't have a stage or whatever. What do you guys think about the state of like DIY music? You ever get to go to DIY shows these days? Or
I'm so far removed from it. Like there's so much great DIY stuff happening in Philadelphia. I don't even get a chance to participate in just because I'm fucking dad mode 24/7. But I see it, and I see it like happening in social media, and I see people, keeping that shit alive, and I know it's alive. I hear it. I hear a band just opened for us in Ohio called Narrow Arrow, and they're like this incredibly talented group of young guys making music, just driven on the idea of getting to play in front of anybody, and their music reminded me of all that stuff from the DIY scene when I was growing up in Philadelphia. It's cool to see.
Yeah, people are always asking me if I've heard like this new band or that new band, and like I don't hear most new music that's released unless somebody just puts it on when I'm standing there. And a lot of times I feel like totally tuned out and out of the loop when it comes to newer music. But then the times recently that I've been really moved, I've wandered into a show and seen just someone new doing their thing, and it's like just totally gets me back in the mood to be creative and like be in love with the music again. So I love those little moments where you like didn't even know there was a show and you just walk into something. You're like, I'm never gonna see this person again probably, but oh my god, she was amazing. It was like, it's cool.
Yeah, I think it's ironic that you said you felt like sort of out of the loop, because you're one of those people that to me still embodies the spark of how easy it is to put on a show. Like, you'll just be like, hey, I'm going to go down to this corner right now and play some songs. And then people show up. And yeah, of course you have a platform, but like, you know how many people have that platform and don't use it, So I think, something I've noticed over like 15 years of us being this band, and then realizing that the journey to this band started in those places, all these other bands we started, you know, the potential for those scenes to exist all over the world is always there. All it takes is a group of people to want it, and to be able to look past the idea of like, oh, I wonder if I could put on some shows and make some money, or I wonder if I could like put on some shows and make my band famous. The second it's like, yo, let's find a place to fuck some shit up. Like, the second that the common cause is base, just like, let's just have a place to go insane and live by our own rules, like, that's where all that shit thrives. And though there will never be a time where it's not needed, but I think right now it's never been needed more. So if anyone hears this and is thinking about it, like, put on a show, like, put out a zine, like, do your own thing. Don't wait for someone to invite you to the party. Throw your own party. Like, that's the deal. So probably you guys know that. I'm sure you guys started from nothing as well, right?